Okay, hello. So this video is designed to show you an overview of the results-driven protocol. The results-driven protocol is a protocol I created 10 years ago when my wife had cancer. She had no no conventional treatments at all. All she did was this protocol. Now, let me be clear, this protocol does not treat disease. What it does is it treats the underlying causes of disease. My wife, 8 months after using this, no longer had cancer. Without treating the cancer, she treated the underlying causes. So the results-driven protocol is specifically aimed at rebalancing the key imbalances that result in the body not being able to heal. To give an example of a type of imbalance that reduces the body's ability to heal, I'm going to use an example that most people are familiar with of diabetes. A diabetic potentially can cut their foot, and a cut that would heal on anybody else might be a problem for a diabetic. In fact, in some cases it might be such a problem they end up having their foot amputated. Why? Because they have certain imbalances which inhibit the body's ability to heal. Okay, so we can put creams and potions and do different things to try and help the cut heal, but it often won't because of these imbalances. So the imbalances are the problem. And so that is exactly what the results-driven protocol does. It deals with the imbalances, it fixes the imbalances. So the first question to ask would be, what are the imbalances? And that's what I'm going to go on to next. So you are a body made up of cells. Every single cell in your body, to be healthy, is completely reliant on the blood's ability to deliver things to the cell and remove things from the cell. Okay, so you can read the text there that explains that, but basically there's certain things that the cells require. They need oxygen and nutrients in order to be able to make energy. They need waste products, toxins, removed from the cell. They need immune cells to be taken to the cell to repair anything that needs repairing. And they need hormones. So there's a range of things that the cells need, and the blood is responsible for taking all of those things to the cells. If the blood is in any way inhibited from doing that, then the cells start to run into problems. So I just mentioned cancer. So one of the problems that cells can run into, if the blood's not functioning properly, if, for example, the circulation is poor, if there's clots and various other things, one of the things that happens is a reduction in oxygen. Cancer is a consequence of a reduction in oxygen. Once the oxygen drops below 30%, in order for the cell to survive, it switches its method of making energy from using oxygen to burn a fuel like sugar or fat. It switches from aerobic respiration to anaerobic respiration, which is to say it's making energy through a process of fermentation. When a cell switches from aerobic to anaerobic respiration, we call that cell a cancer cell. That's a direct result of lower oxygen, which is a result of the blood's inability to get oxygen to whatever part of the body it is that suffers from the cancer. Now, I don't want you to think that this is purely a cancer protocol. It's a healthy cell protocol, and healthy cells result in healthy people. Okay, cancer is just one way of being unhealthy, but there are many, many different ways of being unhealthy, and all of them are related to the blood's inability to do its job properly. As a consequence, the results-driven protocol has 5 simple steps, and each one of the steps in a different way is aimed at improving and empowering the blood. They say that life is in the blood, and that is a very strong truth. So if you have healthy blood, that means that your cells are being properly looked after, and you're going to have healthy cells. If you have healthy cells, then you will be healthy. So the focus here is primarily looking at improving the health of the blood. Now, that's not the only thing we care about, but that is a massive one, very, very important. So, as I mentioned, there are 5 steps, and I'm going to start by looking at this very first step here. Now, they're not in numerical order, so you can actually do these steps in a different order, but there are 5 of them. So let's start by talking about what we call step number 1, which is something which is going to help provide nutrition, because the 2 main causes of imbalances in the body are toxicity and deficiency. Okay, so you're going to see that the 5 steps address both of those 2 causes, and in particular, because the most important one is toxicity, all 5 steps help the body remove toxins. And then a couple of the steps help provide nutrition, and you're going to see some other things as we go through. So the first thing to mention here is obviously we need nutrition. We need vitamins, we need minerals, essential fatty acids, and so on. All of these things should be taken from food. So we try, and our starting point rather, is going to be as healthy a diet as we can manage. However, there are many challenges in the modern world with getting sufficient nutrients from our diet. I'm not going to go into the reasons why, but it begins with the soil, and then also pesticides and herbicides, all of which limit the plant's ability, and then the animals that eat the plants to get all the nutrition that they need. But that's where we want to get our nutrition. So if we can't get it from our diet completely, then we need to have supplements, and they should be food-based supplements. There are supplements, and most of the cheapest supplements, which are typically made through big pharma, are synthetics, which we don't want in our body, and also inorganic minerals. And we can absorb some inorganic minerals, but we don't absorb them nearly as well as organic minerals, which we get from food. So we want food-based supplements. Now, of the food-based supplements, the very best that I've ever found, the most powerful, is something called gadotana that you probably haven't heard of, but it's a type of phytoplankton. And plankton is the sole food for the largest, strongest mammal on the planet, which is the blue whale. It gets everything it needs from plankton. And of the plankton, gadotana is the most powerful one for humans. So that is our step 1. It has a very wide range of nutrition in it, including some of the really important ones like omega-3s. In fact, fish get their omega-3s from the phytoplankton. So when you're getting it from a fish, that's a secondary source. The primary source is plankton. Okay, so it's got things like omega-3s, and it's got magnesium, and it's got D3, and it's got a huge range of 108 different nutrients and compounds in it. And one of the great things about it is that it's so small, the plants are so small, that you actually don't need to digest them. Okay, so it doesn't require digestion, and one of the problems that many sick people have is digestion. Okay, so they're not digesting well, and we have a separate part for helping digestion for all those people that have digestion problems. But if you can have a food source that doesn't need digestion because it's already broken down so small that it can be absorbed straight in, that is amazing. Now, this particular product, which I recommend, also is completely toxic free. It doesn't have any heavy metals at all. It's completely pure and very, very powerful, and this is why it's made it to be one of the 5 steps. And this is a very, very powerful natural food sourced nutrition with a huge range, and it's easy to take. Okay, so now we're going to move to step 2. Okay, so step 2 has one job that it does fantastic, and it's a type of zeolite. Now, there's 2 types within this step. One type, the most important, is a nano zeolite. Why is nano important? Because nano is the type required to do a blood detox. Normal zeolite and nearly all the binders like charcoal and bentonite clay and diatomaceous earth and so on, they're all great, but they're restricted to the gut only. This particular product is able to detox the blood. It sits in the blood and mops up a massive range of toxins, everything from heavy metals to pesticides, herbicides, even radiation. It really is awesome, and it sits in the blood. Now, itself, it's inert. It has no biological activity in the body. It just sits in the blood, grabbing, neutralizing, and mopping up toxins. One of the important things about this is when you're doing any kind of a detox, the toxins are flushed into the blood, and then the blood takes them either to leave the body, which is the ideal, so it takes it out through the bowel movement or through urine or maybe perspiration or whatever. That's the ideal, where it gets out of the body. But a lot of the time, when people are detoxing, they're just moving toxins from one place to the other. When this zeolite grabs it in the blood, all of it, 100% of it, is going to leave the body. So, and it doesn't matter if you've got MTHFR or COMT or any genetic problems with detoxing, this is going to work anyway, completely 100%. Also, unlike a supplement where you might take a nutrient of some sort and you don't really know if you need it or you don't or whatever, this works 100% of the time in 100% of the people, in the same way that a magnet, when you put it into iron filings, it doesn't sometimes work and pick them up and sometimes not. It always works. Well, this is a toxin magnet that 100% of the time is going to grab, neutralize and take the toxins out of your body in every single person that uses it. So it's really, really awesome, and it's the key for the detox of all of the 5. They all help with detox, but this one that's all it does. So the others have other advantages, but what it does absolutely fantastic. Now there's 2 types. There's the nano, which I've just mentioned for the blood, but then there's a micronized one for the digestion. So there's 2 types. Everybody needs to be doing the blood. A lot of people are going to benefit from the digestion, but there are some people with a fantastic digestion. They're okay. They don't need to do that one. Okay, so let's look at the next step, which is step 3. Now, everybody is aware that frequencies can harm you. So people mostly know that 5G is not a very healthy frequency. Obviously, microwave is not a healthy frequency. EMFs in general, people know that it's all, not good. And we talk a lot about frequencies that harm us, but we also must remember there are frequencies which heal us. So this step is using a device called a P90. It's a device, it's not a supplement. It's something you put your feet onto and the frequencies go up through your feet, and it uses PEMF and terahertz frequencies. Now you don't need to understand about the frequencies, but what I'll tell you is that it's the most powerful home-based frequency device I've ever come across, and I'm just going to briefly cover some of the things that it does. So we talked about the blood, and I said that the blood, one of the problems that you might see with it is circulation. And one of the causes of circulatory problems is that if you've ever seen red blood cells under a high-powered microscope, you sometimes will see that the red blood cells, instead of free like this, they're sticking together in a roulage, or sometimes called sticky blood. So when the red blood cells are sticking together, then they reduce their surface area, and they also reduce their ability to get into the microcirculation. When you do that, you reduce your circulation, you reduce your blood's ability to carry the things needed to the cells, and so the cells start to suffer. Now, many people don't understand the cause of the red blood cells sticking together, and it's interesting because it is a deficiency, but it's not a deficiency that many people think about because it's not a nutrient. It's a deficiency in voltage. So you have a low cellular voltage. In fact, everybody who's sick has a low cellular voltage, and everybody who's healthy doesn't. And so if you have a low cellular voltage, what do you do about it? Well, that's where the P90 comes in. We can think of it as like a human battery charger. It charges it up, it raises cellular voltage. By the way, in a much less powerful way, so does doing something like earthing, where you just go out, put your feet on the ground. That all helps with the voltage in your body. But this is 1,000 times more powerful than doing that. So it raises your cellular voltage, and that really, really helps with the blood circulation and giving the red blood cells the energy, because when you've got low voltage, you've also got low energy. Now, if you've got enough cells with low energy, you will find you have low energy. But you can have fine energy, but some of your cells can be struggling in certain parts of your body because they have low voltage. So the P90 is going to help increase the voltage, which improves your blood circulation. Now, once you improve the blood circulation, you now improve the delivery of nutrients oxygen, immune cells, and so on, to the cells. And so this is a really key part of the protocol, and it's something often overlooked in other protocols. So let's look at the next step, step 4, which is transfer factors. Now, I'm trying to go through this fairly quickly, so I'm not going to go into too much detail. Needless to say, transfer factor is something that is able to massively improve your immune in a number of ways. Okay, so the first way is that it's able to significantly boost your immune and or calm it, depending on what's required. So if you have an autoimmune, you'll have, that will mean that the immune is overreacting to certain things. And if you have a suppressed immune, then it's underacting. And you can have an immune doing both at the same time. So it could be suppressed, but in certain areas overacting. So transfer factor is able to both calm the immune where it's overacting and boost the immune where it's underacting. So that's the first thing. Another thing that it can do, one of the problems that a lot of people have with their immune is the immune doesn't know what it's supposed to be fighting, and sometimes it's fighting something it shouldn't be fighting. And the reason for that is because the immune has, the data that runs the immune has become corrupted. The immune is an intelligent system, and it uses data to know what to do, basically. So transfer factor is the only thing in the world that's able to correct faulty data in the immune and overwrite it with correct data. And that is really, really important because so many people have now got corrupted data. To give you an example, so some people will eat a peanut and or a part of a peanut, and they can have a serious reaction to it, even to the point of death. Why? The immune believes the peanut is an enemy. It believes it's something that's really, really bad that it needs to fight at a very, very high level. But that's wrong. It's not correct. The peanut's not a terrible enemy. So the immune system is running on false information, and it's got that false information. It's been tricked by a certain medical intervention, I'm not going to name it, that purposely tricks the immune. And so you end up with immune problems where you might be reacting to peanuts, eggs, or lots of other things. In fact, if you are introduced, if aluminium for my British friends, is introduced into your body at the same time as something else that's not harmful, you have a very high risk of becoming allergic to that thing, which could be almost anything. So transfer factors have the ability to correct that data. So very, very important part of the equation, because your immune system is extremely important. If you're ever going to heal of anything, it's going to be your immune ultimately that does that. So all the other steps are basically taking pressure off the immune, because the immune has to deal with toxins and foreign bodies in general, foreign proteins, for example, that shouldn't be there. And when we start removing toxins, we're taking a workload off the immune to allow it to function fully and focus on the things it needs to do. And so we come to step 5, and step 5 is a product called iHercules. It's made from 44 of the most powerful healing plants that we've ever found, and it's from certain compounds, or the active compounds in those plants. And it does a number of things really, really well that are very important. So one of them is it helps to raise oxygen levels. That's seriously important. It's one of the reasons that a lot of people use things like hyperbaric chambers and ozone therapy and so on. They're attempting to raise their oxygen. Well, this is something you don't need to go into a very expensive device and go to a clinic. You can just take it. It's a spray. Actually, got it right here. That's it. It's a spray that you just spray under your tongue, and it helps to raise cellular oxygen. But it also increases stem cells significantly. And if you don't know, stem cells are part of the body's, part of the cells that help to repair stuff. And if you can increase stem cells, you can have healing where otherwise you wouldn't be able to have healing. So it's very, very powerful, and that comes in as step number 5. Now, all of the steps help with detox as well. So I may not have mentioned that with some of them, but step 5 here, iHercules, that does help with detox. So does step 1 with the Gadatana, help with detox. Step 3, through improving circulation, helps the flushing of toxins, and transfer factors improve the immune, and immune obviously is responsible for toxins as well. And I did talk about zeolite having that's its sole purpose, is to remove toxins. So that is the basic 5 steps that are all going to help to improve the blood, improve cellular oxygen, improve immune cells getting to where they need to get, removing toxins and so on. So that's the main things, or the main imbalances that they work on. Now I'm going to just briefly show you so that you can see a little which the products are, so you have a quick idea of what I'm talking about. I just showed you iHercules. So that's Gadatana. It's a as I say, it's a phytoplankton. You add it to water and you drink it, and it's really quick and easy to take. And that's the 2 types of zeolite. The one in the blue bottle is the nano one that goes into your blood, and the green bottle is a digestive one. And that's the frequency device. That is terahertz and PEMF, and you sit and you put your feet on that. There is another type of device that we sometimes use instead of that, but that's the frequency and helping with the charge. Transfer factor, there's a number of different transfer factors, and you need to be advised on which one is right for you. That's one example of transfer factor. That's actually the most powerful one. However, it's not always the correct one. You'll need to talk to your health coach to be advised on which is the correct one. And then that's the iHercules, which is the 44 plant compounds, increasing oxygen and so on. Now, quite a few people have digestive issues, and sometimes before we start the protocol, we will do a digestive reset, either a partial or a full one. These are the products we use for a full gut reset, and then sometimes we'll do just, it depends on the person, on what's needed. Now, the way the group works is we have health practitioners. So my name is Ethan Leeds. I'm the guy that created the protocol, and I'm a holistic practitioner. I've been in natural health for 35 years. And as I say, I originally created it specifically for cancer. It's been used on thousands of people, and we've had amazing results for many of them. Now, the way the group works, we have a bunch of health professionals, practitioners of various types, who are trained in this protocol. And when somebody wants any of the products in the group, you simply ask for a link, and you'll be designated a health coach, and that health coach is going to be your direct support. We're not expected just to get some random supplements and then start working on yourself. We will walk you through, we will help you with every aspect of it, from dose to everything else, the order to do them in for you personally, what will be best, whether or not you need a digestive reset. Sometimes there are other things that aren't part of the normal protocol. For example, if you have a serotonin imbalance, here's some examples of some symptoms that you might have. ADHD people always have a serotonin imbalance, but you might not have ADHD. You might still have a serotonin imbalance if you're suffering with these kind of symptoms. And so we've got other components that we can bring in for specific purposes. This isn't something that most people are going to need, but there's a significant number of people that might need serotonin being raised or lowered, come to that. So you can have too low serotonin. If you've got, for example, depression, and you go to the doctors, they're typically going to put you on an SSRI, which is to raise your serotonin, because they know that depression and anxiety and these things are linked to low serotonin. The problem with drugs raising your serotonin is the way that they work. Instead of the natural way that we do it, the way that they work, they raise serotonin, but they can keep raising it until it's too high, and you end up with your serotonin being too high. And too high serotonin is worse than too low serotonin. But anyway, the point I really wanted to make is that there are sometimes situations where steps outside of the 5 steps are needed, but for the vast majority of people, the 5 steps are going to be life-changing and all that they need. Okay, so that concludes a real flying visit on the 5 steps of the results-driven protocol, what it's aiming to do, and how you go about using it with a partner that's a health practitioner that's going to help and support you. And we do all of that, by the way, absolutely free for those that are coming through our group and purchasing through the links that we provide. Okay, it's an absolutely free service because we're passionate about helping and we want to see you get the absolute best possible results. So I hope you enjoyed that, and we want to be part of your health journey because we want to see the massive changes, because it's so encouraging, and we're passionate about doing that and bringing about vibrant health in people, sometimes who've been in pain and even non-functional for many years before we work with them. So God bless you, and get in touch. Let us know what we can do to help you.